Welcome to CutCode channel. The month has come to an end, and if you think about it, then the year. And this means that it's time for a review of news from the world of PHP and Laravel. By tradition, we start with a review of PHP news with Sergey Panteleev. Let's go! Hello, this is a PHP Digest on the CutCode channel. Let's take a look at what happened in December in the PHP world. The main news of December: PHP 8.2.0 is out. In the last issue, we talked about the reasons why the release of PHP 8.2.0 was delayed by 2 weeks, but finally it came out. PHP 8.2 is a major update to the PHP language. It contains many new features, including read-only classes, independent types, null, false, and true, deprecated dynamic properties, performance improvements, and more. If you missed it, watch the stream recording where Alexander Makarov, Valentin Udaltov, Vladlen Giliazadina figured out what new features appeared in PHP 8.2, how global these changes are, and what role the PHP Foundation project played in them. Take part in the 2022 survey in the Russian-speaking PHP community. If you wish, you can leave a mail at the end. The guys will play a PHP elephant and cool merch. Another important event: Symfony 6.2 is out. Improved support for emoji, clock component, UUID support for version 7 and 8 in the Symfony UID package. Autocomplete support for Z-shell, template attributes, doctrines, and more. Check out Living on the Edge on the Symfony blog to learn about the main features of the new release. Another big release of December, Psalm 5 is out. New types and variable templates have been added. The full list of changes can be found on the release page. As you have already noticed, December is rich in releases. Xdebug 3.2.0 released. This release adds support for PHP 8.2 and removes support for PHP 7. The new version has improved checking of returned values and displaying error and warning messages. Most PHP Core news is covered in detail in the PHP Foundation's PHP Core Roundup series, so we'll just skim through it quickly. RFC more appreciate datetime exceptions. Derek Rathens suggested adding specific exceptions and errors for the datetime model where it makes sense. Warnings and errors are now thrown with a generic message, which makes it difficult to catch modal exceptions because they are not specific enough. Voting will end on December 31st. Judging by the current votes, the RFC is likely to be adopted. RFC list unique and ASOC unique. Ilya Tuvila suggested adding 2 new functions to get the unique values of an array. The main problem is that the array unique function uses a non-strict comparison. The new functions will use a strict comparison, the first one discarding the keys, and the second one keeping them. RFC Unicode text processing. Derek Rathens suggested adding a new class to use and process text, Unicode, in a more developer-friendly way than the Intel model. All methods of the new text class will return a new immutable object. It is proposed to make that text class part of the PHP Core. RFC adding an optional $result code parameter to the shell exec function. The shell exec function is used to execute any external program and capture its output as a string, but it lacks a way to capture the output code of the running program, unlike all other functions of the same family. Exec, system, pass-through. Luca Pietrucci suggests adding a second, optional $result code parameter to the shell exec function. RFC final class collections, deck. Tyson Andre suggested adding a final collections decor class. A decor is an abstract data type in which elements can be added and removed both at the beginning and at the end. Looking at benchmarks, using SPL Queue is generally slower than using an array when used as a queue, although an array takes more memory. Introducing a data structure, decker, that is even faster and uses less memory than an array for use as a decker. Use as a decker will allow even more applications to benefit from it. In addition, decker will allow you to refactor or write more readable code in cases where PHP developers previously avoided using SPL stack or SPL queue due to the time and memory inefficiency of all data structures. New UI preview, full HP 8.2 support, Redis support in database tools, code vision for PHP quick fix preview, Xdebug configuration check, paratest support, reader mode for PHP doc, and more. That's all for today. Let's move on to the Laravel news. Sergey, thanks for the review, and we are moving to the review of update, friends. We start with release 942 and new auto-generated singleton controllers. Before that, we had resource controllers for multiple operations, but often we need controllers for one entity. For example, if we have a user profile that does not imply several profiles or an image for an entity that can only have one. And in such cases, we can quickly and conveniently generate such a controller and also declare it in routes in a convenient way. Let's try and create a singleton controller. To do this, you need to add the singleton option and then declare route using the singleton method. Let's also take a look at what's inside the controller and see that it is designed for only one entity. But the methods for adding, deleting are closed with a 404 error. But friends, let's delete the controller. We can also create a singleton controller with an additional creatable parameter. And in the root using the credible method, indicate that it does not block creation operations with us. Let's also take a look at the controller and see that here we already have these methods not blocked by a 404 error. The same for the API controllers, friends. Only when creating we use the old API parameter. But in the root we use the method with the API prefix. Continue flying over release 942. And within the class for working with strings, a method from ULID has appeared that allows you to check whether the string is ULID. Before that, we already had a method by UUID and now EULID. And without straying too far from 942, let's also look at the two new helpers, reportif and report unless. Helpers for sending a report within the error handler. Only now the condition, where the first parameter we have is just a boolean condition. Well, the second one is an exception. Laravel sugar again. Let's move on. Friends, we move to release 943. And again, the class byline and again ULID. Only now is the closure method in when ISULID. Where callbacks will fire if the string is ULID, also within the framework of 943 and the query builder. The visualizer method was slightly pumped, which we have a wrapper between two query builder methods, namely vary to check for the presence of records, and the game of visas if there are any. Now the gameload method also accepts selects as fields. Just here is the place where this moment before this update did not work. And finally, 943 and a new improvement for the modal show console team. App servers were added last time and now policies have also been added, and we drive on. Switching to 942 and improvement for the throw if method within the HTTP facade. Previously, it only took boolean and now also the closure. Friends, remember when editing the name of a field or deleting a field in migrations, you also had to install the Dibble Doctrine package. So now you don't have to do this, and it will work without it on new versions of databases. Going further, a great improvement for notifications has arrived with this release. Previously, we could set connection to one for all channels, And now, using the wire connections method, we can vary depending on the channels. Friends, and finally, with update 9.44, they added support for the Vue version 4 of the Vite plugin, as well as in Getstream and Breeze. Friends, I congratulate you on the upcoming new year, and for those who will watch later, Happy New Year! I wish you all health, professional growth. With the second paragraph, the CutCode channel will help you constantly. From myself, I promise in the new year to continue to improve the quality of the material and delight you with content. That's all, friends. Thank you for watching, for the like that you put, subscribe and comment. You are the best. In the meantime, we say goodbye and see you in the new year on the CutCode channel.